Hi there, I'm Heather King. I'm having my afternoon coffee. I've set up my office by dragging in this screen that costs $500. And that's a typical piece of furniture. It's this ancient thing that's like peeling. It has birds on it, which is one of my major obsessions. Not that I'm an ornithologist, I just love birds. Anyway, it's kind of peeling and flaking. You always have to sweep up after it. But there's a French door on the back of it that emits this hideous glaring light, so I look like Lon Chaney. Anyway, I had the camera set up because I wanted to do this video inviting people to hire me. Basically, I'm shilling as usual for money to edit their book or shape their manuscript. So while I have the camera set up, I thought, oh, let's make another video. I'm in a super good mood. I'm having my afternoon coffee. I will be, it's the, happens to be the octave of Christmas. It's December 17th. And so it's just a beautiful, beautiful time. If you follow along in any way with Advent liturgy, which I do. So I'm going to walk. Uh, I'm in Tucson. I'm going to walk to 5 o'clock evening prayer and then 5:15 mass. Uh, I just get excited like a child during this time of year. The liturgy is so beautiful. So anyway, but I wanted to just talk a bit about various aspects of writing, things that I've learned over the years. And uh, I have written, among many other things, for the last 7.5 years, I've written a weekly arts and culture column for the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. And bless them, they give me total carte blanche to write about whatever I want. I don't have to pitch the piece. They've never refused a piece, and they just trust me somehow. And it doesn't have to be Catholic with a capital C, although of course it can be. So it might be, for instance, some a triptych. By some wonderful Renaissance painter that they've reassembled at the Getty Center, or an illuminated manuscript, or yeah, something like that. That's super hardcore, old school sort of Catholic art, which I love. Uh, but it can be a ballet. It can be a reflection on the story of Don Quixote from a ballet that I saw. It can be a book, The Sound of a Wild Snail Eating, which was a wonderful memoir by Elizabeth Tova Bailey several years ago. She had some terrible neurological illness and became bedridden. And um, I don't even want to say, she did not anthropomorphize the snail, or try to make a pet out of it, but wrote this incredibly beautiful, deep, sort of funny, touching memoir about her discoveries about the snail. Anyway, so I write through the lens of um, I think what's exciting, what's interesting, what's multidimensional. I used to live in Pasadena, California, and there was somebody in the neighboring town who had this place called the Bunny Museum, and apparently it's just filled with zillions of bunnies and bunny toothbrushes and bunny salt and pepper shakers, and like that kind of thing just doesn't remotely interest me. It's I mean, I like people who are obsessive and also who are sort of hoarding collector, not hoarding so much, but just have bizarre sort of like weird, or weirdly drawn to something that might not interest someone else. So, but still, just to collect bunnies in and of itself, nah, like that, it just doesn't interest me. It's not, wouldn't be worthy of my column, because where's uh, the sort of depth, the complexity? Anyway, so people are always saying to me, "How do you get your ideas?" And and my answer is, yeah, and they also say, "Aren't you afraid you'll run out of ideas?" And I was like, "No, if I lived to be a million, I would never run out of ideas." I mean, I'd say the main way I get ideas is through reading. Kind of, I'd say a voluminous, is that the word? Voracious reader. Uh, Eclectic. There are certain things that I like, and my range is kind of narrow. I love memoir, and I love stories of kind of, yeah, obsessive people, tortured people, um, dysfunctional family people, people who suffer from some kind of obsession or compulsion or mental illness or especially addiction. Um, but that's just travel. Love to read about. I don't know. I just get on these kicks where, oh, these female British Victorian explorers, Mary Kingsley and Freya Stark, and I'll just get on these. Um, and then I'll just go for a couple of months and just read. I got into this whole, I don't know what Great Britain has been, the Edward Thomas. This was through the wonderful Robert Macfarlane, who's a contemporary, I guess you could say, landscape. I mean, he's really a wonderful writer. He's written about mountains and caves and um, the wilds of various, he's a great walker. And so he introduced me to Edward Thomas, who was a poet, died in World War I, and he was depressed, super struggled with depression, and would walk regularly for 25 miles a day, and once sent his fiance a pair of thrush eggs. I mean, I just love these people, and they're the British have this incredible tradition and history of just training kids from a very young age, or just, I guess, letting them run free. And then they have the wonderful education that encourages them to explore. I mean, to really know about, say, birds or stones or whatever. So anyway, I'll just go down this rabbit hole. And I read this, I get the Times Literary Supplement. Like, I don't, I read the Times Literary Supplement. I read this thing every day, longform.org, that collects long articles from all over the place. A lot of it's kind of true crime stuff, which I have a certain affinity for, but and some of it's just really good writing. But anyway, long form, Arts and Letters Daily, Times Literary Supplement. I kind of browse the New York Review of Books. A lot of these people have no sense of humor, which I don't know. Um, or they have the kind of ideological, to me, political slant, which doesn't really, I'm not really interested in the whole current victim oppressor. I can't celebrate anything because it might be taking something away from you or whatever. This, to me, extremely kind of anti-life, anti-celebratory, anti sort of fun stance. It's like, yeah, we all know the world is in dire shape. Let's, it hasn't ended yet. So let's proceed on the assumption today, or just let's enjoy today. Anyway, so yeah, so I read this in the Times Literary Supplement earlier in the year, or maybe it was last year. I guess it was early this year. They someone they had this best books of the year. I love those things, and I often find some real gems in there. And so one of the books that someone suggested, I think this is where I got it. It was called Scraps of Wool, I believe. I can't remember who the editor was, but it's a collection of travel essays, great travel essays, excerpts from, I should say, from various, uh, not just contemporary, but some of them from way back and some from the 1900s. But anyway, um, so that helped me to revisit Bruce Chatwin, who I've always revered. I read the songlines again, and then he had this other collection of essays called "What Am I Doing Here?" Wonderful, and from him I learned about Maria Reich. I think you pronounce her name Reiche, and she was this woman who lived Oh gosh, I think she came from the Netherlands or Belgium, and she ended up in the desert in Peru, I think, and just lived there by herself for decades, mapping these um, very mysterious sort of geometric designs that had been in the desert clearly for centuries, and no one, and they had some kind of deep corresponded to the sky somehow. I haven't, I'm going to write a piece about her. I haven't done it yet. So I sound kind of vague simply because because with good reason, I don't know the specifics of her story, but I love people who just live by themselves. For example, out in the desert, she had a broom. This is a great picture of her with a broom. I mean, she had a broom and she swept the sand off of these. That's what she did for years. But she was very, very well educated and educated herself about these very mysterious markings that you could see them from the air. When you looked at them from the air, they're just stupendous, these works of art. Anyway, thus, my point is, oh gosh, then I got on this Gavin Maxwell kick that I'm still on. He wrote, as you may know, this book that in its day was an international bestseller called Ring of Bright Water, and it was about these pet otters. He was an aristocrat. He had some kind of peerage or whatever they call it, and grew up in a castle in Scotland. He wrote this book called the memoir called The House of Elrig. That's really wonderful. Anyway, so we lived with these pet otters that actually were kind of feral and ended up attacking. Anyway, it's a great story. Uh, he's just an eccentric, kind of tragic individual who I can't help but admire very much and feel a certain kind of affinity with. But he wrote tons of books. He had been to the to with the guy Wilfred Thesiger, I think his name is, who's another. And then the thing that ties those two together also is Eric Newby, who wrote A Short Walk in the Hindu Kush, I guess you pronounce it Kush. Wonderful book. And Eric Newby, I fell in love with. He wrote a bunch of other books and married this, I think, Estonian woman named Wanda, who had kind of saved him when he was hiding out in World War II in Italy, in Tuscany. And so, anyway, it's like that. That's just one teeny, that's just my weird British explorer nutcase kick. But there's many, many other tributaries of that. Yeah, I love film, and so that also, whether it's from the 40s, and I'll just go into this. Oh, watching The Third Man, and then watching Third Man commentary, and then researching Joseph Cotton, and watching all the Joseph Cotton movies, and then the Carol Reed movies, and then Odd Man Out, and The Third Man, and The Man Between, and James Mason, and who was the cinematographer, and oh, Paul Schrader, first reformed. Oh, Taxi Driver. Oh, he wrote a book about Ozu and Carl Dreyer and some other third filmmaker in there. Um, I think Robert Bresson, who, of course, is a master. So it's like that. I just kind of go from one thing to another. I have very few people to talk to who's remotely interested in anything that I read or watch or do. And so be it. We all have our interests, but so I think for me, books just make this world, this parallel world is just peopled with incredible characters. You never know when you're going to stumble upon just a gem. Edward Thomas, who I mentioned, the guy who was depressed and walked and wrote beautifully. He was a poet, beautiful, beautiful poetry, and wrote in, of nature. Uh, and his wife, Helen Thomas, also wrote a book. I can't remember the name of it right now. It's on my bookshelf back there. But she wrote a book after Edward had died, about the various houses. They sort of were nomads. And this I identify with too. They searched for home. They longed for home. They had a home built for themselves at one point. They never had much money. And then the house, it was in kind of on a headland or something, and it turned out to be way too windy. I mean, it was just put together with absolute loving care. Everything was by hand and painstaking and joined by hand and uh, carved by hand. And then they decided they didn't like it. But anyway, but she wrote a beautiful, beautiful book, has her own wonderful writing ability and ability to see and feel. And so, yeah, it just makes for this whole, I mean, if I usually have 5 to 6 books on my nightstand, just waiting. Sometimes I'm reading more than one at once. I always have books on hold at the library. I almost always have books that are in transit, that I've ordered, that are coming in the mail. I have a bunch. Oh, I got on this Rodin and Rilke kick, because Rilke, who knew, probably everyone but me, was at one point Rodin's secretary. And so anyway, and Rodin wrote a short. I mean, Rilke wrote a short book about Rodin, which I've not yet read, but I ended up reading biographies, and then Rodin's wife, Rose Beyrou, I guess it's pronounced, and then I got on this Sebastian Snee, who, no, Smee, I guess it is. Yeah, he's a contemporary art critic, wrote this wonderful book, Rivalries, Art Rivalries, or something. He pairs these 4 sets of artists, Francis Bacon and Lucien Freud and Monet, I think, yeah, Monet and Degas, and Matisse and Picasso. So yeah, I'll get on the. I love to read about artists' lives, the kind of creative life, and ponder this great mystery of how can so many wonderful artists um, not lead such tortured private lives, because that I understand completely, but it's more be such kind of horrible people, some of them. Not all of them by any means, but some of them. And yeah, it's just fascinating to me. So it seems that I have this whole thing of, if you're faithful to your calling, as all of those very well-known artists were, that in and of itself is a good and a virtue and something of deep, deep, deep beauty. It takes a lot to persevere, to stay at your watch. So anyway, that's I'm just babbling onward because I've just had my coffee. But that's how and where I get just that's just the tip of the iceberg of where I get my ideas. And anyway, thank you so much for listening. And I hope to deliver more such pithy, concise, short um, writing tips.